If you want to win your bracket pool, you have to pick the overall champion. What's up, everybody? This is Kerry. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use KenPom stats to pick the overall champion. But before we do that, let's take a look at the seed analysis for the last 23 tournaments. Check this out. When it comes to picking the overall champion, you got to go with the chalk. In fact, there's an obvious distinction here. Look to the left of this line, 22 of the 23 champions are 4 seeds or better, and to the right of the line, only 1. You know who that 7 seed was? That was UConn back in 2014. In fact, the last 4 seed to win was UConn just 2 years ago in 2023. So when it comes to overall champion, unless you're picking UConn this year, I would go with the top 3 seeds for your overall champion. Let's get to the KenPom stats. These are the KenPom stats as of March 2nd, 2025, 2 weeks before Selection Sunday. As always, we're going to focus on these 4 stats here: the net rating, offensive rating, defensive rating, and the adjusted tempo. We're going to use these stats to identify who could be the overall champion. In other words, who are the contenders to win the 2025 NCAA tournament. I showed you this in my last video. These are the round 1 results using KenPom stats since 2001. And as I mentioned in that video, the upper left-hand corner here, this is where we find the best teams. So what I'm going to do for this video is take away all the teams except for the ones that got into the championship game since 2001. And here they are. As I mentioned, they're all in the upper left-hand corner here. So I'm going to change the axis a little bit and zoom in here. You might be thinking those blue and orange dots are intermingled here, but there is some boundaries here that we can draw. In fact, let's draw the first horizontal boundary here. 113.8 for offensive rating. Look below that. Only 1 team has had a rating below that won the national championship game. That was the 7th-seeded UConn Huskies in 2017. In a similar way, if we draw a vertical line at 95.0, teams to the right of that line have worse defenses, and only 1 team with a defensive rating above 95.0 has won a national championship game. That was the 2018 Villanova Wildcats. But I think that team has such a great offensive rating, I want to include them. So we're going to draw a diagonal line here. And for this diagonal line, any team above it or to the left of it had a net rating above 30.0, which is a very good elite net rating. So this gives us our conditions for our contenders. Here they are. If a team has an offensive rating above 113.8 and a defensive rating less than 95, both of these conditions must be true, then they're a contender for the national champion. So in fact, 21 of the last 23 champions, 91.3% of the champions, satisfied this condition. Now this 91.3% does not imply that if a team satisfies conditions, they're going to be the champion. It just simply means that 91.3% of the champions satisfied this condition. So if we want to include teams above that diagonal line, then we can say, or if the net rating of a team is greater than 30.0, then 22 of the last 23 champions have satisfied one of these 2 conditions. So let's check out the contenders for 2025. Here we go. This should be no surprise. The top contenders are Duke, Auburn, Houston, Florida, and Tennessee. They all satisfy the first condition, and they all satisfy the second condition as well. So really, you don't have to look any further than these top 5 teams for the overall champion. But I'm going to extend this a little bit further and look at other teams that might be in contention. So I'm calling this the Tier 2 contenders. We have Michigan State, Iowa State, Arizona, and Maryland. They all 4 satisfy the first condition. They did not satisfy the net rating above 30.0, but their net ratings are in the mid-20s, which is, again, very good for a net rating. Now, we still have a few more teams that satisfy that first condition. Let's check them out. This is what I'm calling the Tier 3 contenders. We have St. Mary's, Kansas, Texas A&M, Michigan, and UCLA. They all satisfy this first condition, but their net ratings are in the low 20s. Again, that's not going to be as good as the top tier contenders, but this is still pretty good overall for the 364 Division I teams. I know what you're wondering. Where's Alabama? Where's Texas Tech? Gonzaga? Well, here are teams that I'm going to say are not contenders. I know this is going to be kind of controversial, but these 5 teams, Alabama, Texas Tech, Wisconsin, Gonzaga, and Missouri, these teams did not satisfy the first conditions, and they did not satisfy the second condition either. So even though these are really good teams, these are strong teams, these are probably in the top 20, but their defenses are not that good. These defenses are actually pretty poor. The best defense among this group is Texas Tech's at 96.6, but even that Villanova team in 2018 had a defensive rating of 95.9. So no team has ever won the national championship game with a defensive rating above 96. So that's what I'm talking about. That's why I say these teams are not contenders. Let's take a look at that scatter plot one more time with just the teams from 2025. Again, these are the top contenders, the top 5 here. These are definitely going to be the teams that I pick for my overall champion. If you want to put a name to the dots here, I could put the logos in. My chart would get pretty crowded if I put all the logos in there. Let's look at those Tier 2 contenders are right here inside that triangle, but not above that diagonal line. The Tier 3 contenders are right there, a little bit lower. They have not as good offensive ratings as the Tier 2 contenders. And then finally, if we put all 14 of these contenders together, there are 14 contenders for the overall champion for the 2025 national tournament. And again, I'm going to say just those top 5 are the ones I'm going to pick for my overall champion. If we put those last 5 teams in here that are not contenders, even though they have high offensive ratings, they have bad defenses. And again, no team has won the championship game if they have a defensive rating above 96.0. And because the Oscar ceremony is later on today, March 2nd, 2025, I have to show you this image one more time. This comes from one of my favorite movies of all time, On the Waterfront. It won Best Picture for 1954. And Marlon Brando, one of my favorite actors of all time, won the Best Actor Oscar for 1954. And this is a very famous movie quote. "I could have been a contender." That's right. But for Alabama, Texas Tech, Wisconsin, Gonzaga, and Missouri, you're not going to be contenders with a poor defense. Hope you enjoyed this video. Next Sunday on March 9th, I'm going to put up my video on the KenPom prediction formula and show you how we can use that to pick the tournament games for all the rounds. See you in the next video.